Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing good. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. I love her. She is so good. Hello and welcome. I am Mambo Soleil. If this is your first time here, hello and welcome. I'm the Coven Mother of Vision of Dawn Tour. I'm the founder and facilitator of the Charm School Hoodoo Mentorship Program, and I am your weekly reader. You may be used to seeing me here for the weekly wisdom readings. You also may occasionally be, used to seeing me. It's been forever since I've done a charm school lecture, actually. But you may be used to me being here for happy hour. But I do want to start talking more about astrological placements here. I love astrology. Knowing my chart has helped me tremendously through my own spiritual journey. But it is probably one of the areas where I am weakest as a priestess, and I really need to strengthen that skill set. And also, I know a lot of brilliant astrologers, like Jason with Sagittarian Mind. That's been my astrologer since probably like 2016. Karen Boone is like amazing and gifted. So it can be intimidating sometimes to jump into these topics when I have access and I'm surrounded by really amazing, talented, brilliant Black astrologers. But also, like, I want to challenge myself to have these conversations because I know that this wisdom benefits you all, right? So here we are. We're going to talk about Chiron Retrograde, which starts tomorrow and lasts until December 29th. Which is a long time. And that's why I think it's important for us to note it. So I'm here. I got my emotional support beverages. I got still water, sparkling water, and ginger tea. So I'm ready to talk for as long as we need to. As you come into the room, say hello. Hit the scale emoji so that I know that you're with me. Hello, Nicole. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Allie. Hey, Tori. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to try to scroll through Instagram today or to screen from Instagram today, mostly because I need my phone for my notes. As I just said, this is not the strongest area for me. So whereas if I'm talking about hoodoo culture, history, if I'm going over tarot, if I'm talking about bone divination, those are all things that I can talk about off the top of my head. But it needs to be a little bit more structured. So I'm just going to go over a general overview of Chiron. I'm going to talk about Chiron retrograde. I'm going to talk about the areas of life you guys need to be mindful of. And then I'll wrap up with just doing a quick little reading to see what else we all need to consider as a collective. Okay. So how many of you all are familiar with Chiron? How many of you know what that is? Put a thumbs up if you know, put a thumbs down if you don't. Now, here's the thing. Because Chiron is something that I use a lot in my healing and in the work that I do with people, I have several classes on it. So I have a general overview of Chiron, which goes over each house as well as each sign and how that impacts Chiron. And then I have the class that I taught last night, which is specifically about Chiron retrograde. So I'm going to, of course, you know, Tori, you've been in my class. So yeah, I'm going to just talk generally about what Chiron is. When we look at Chiron and we think about its significance in astrology and in mysticism, Chiron represents the wounded healer. Now, I'm not going to go into the story and the mysticism of it. Specifically, when you locate Chiron in your chart, Chiron is there to teach you about the area of life where you may have experienced a wound, either in your early childhood. So it's a foundational wound, right? Or it can be a wound that is related to a past life. Now, the majority of the time when I work with Chiron and I help people through Chiron, we focus on Chiron as it relates to inner child healing, right? Now, the reason why Chiron is understood as the wounded healer is because that area of pain for a lot of people ends up being the space in which they have a particular vision and a particular gift that they can turn into medicine, that they can turn into healing for the rest of the world, right? So I'll give the same example that I gave in class last night with the girls in Charm School. My Chiron is in my second house. Second house has to do with values, right? So a lot of times when people have Chiron in the second house, they have experienced some sort of foundational wound as it relates to value, finances, money, worth, right? So it's no surprise that a lot of the work that I do in terms of helping and healing people is rooted in financial trauma recovery. I don't have a whole lot of shame. I talk really openly about my life and what I've gone through. And even though I love my family and I love my mother, I did grow up in a financially abusive family, right? And that left some really nasty impressions on me. So, but in healing those wounds and addressing those issues through my own shadow work journey, it has since turned into medicine that I give to the world as a priestess, right? So, i.e., Rich Spirit, i.e., my classes about theater of the mind, i.e., my golden shadow readings, i.e., my coaching services around financial trauma recovery, because that is something that I am equipped to heal the world around, right? And depending on where your Chiron is, it can represent different things. Again, this is a general discussion and conversation. So I will not go through every single Chiron sign. And again, if you guys want that information, you are more than welcome to purchase my class or book a session with me. But Chiron, unlike a lot of the other planets, like the sun or the moon, even our Venus, right, which all focus on external experiences and external events, Chiron it works on a soul level. Okay. So anytime you have strong activity around your Chiron in your chart, it is there to bring up deep emotions and spiritual injuries so that you can learn how you may have internalized certain things based on those experiences, right? It's also important to note that Chiron is a comet. It is not a planet. So, of course, it's going to show up differently than the traditional planets we're used to analyzing, right? So, again, whereas the planets are very much about external events, life events and experiences you're going to have, Chiron is about what happens internally, right? And it's really important to interrogate this retrograde, because we already know that retrogrades mean that the signs are moving inward, that they're moving in reverse, right? So a Chiron retrograde positions us to focus on healing inward, right? It's an opportunity for us to really reflect over our emotions, to prioritize shadow work, to really get down to the nitty gritty around what wounds did we accumulate in our early life and how the healing of those wounds will support us in being able to be a light in the world or a healer in the world, someone who supports our communities as opposed to being a detriment, right? So Chiron it forces us to deal with shadow work, especially shadow work around the inner child, whether we want to deal with it or not. Chiron retrogrades are going to trigger you emotionally. And again, this is a long retrograde, 5 months. It starts tomorrow and it lasts until December 29th. That is a long time. And so my hope is that in having this conversation, you guys can prioritize your healing first so that when you do feel yourself triggered, you know how to take care of yourself. You know how to dig into the lessons that are coming up. And it doesn't cause damage in terms of your reputation, your personal experiences, your most intimate relationships, etc. This Chiron retrograde between July 26th and December 29th is happening in Aries, right? And so when you're looking at Chiron, you want to pay attention to where the retrograde is, what sign it's happening in, and look at how that sign speaks to your particular placement, right? So, for example, if you have Chiron in Cancer, Cancer being the mother, it's domesticity, it's the home, right? You may have had painful childhood experiences related to your maternal elders or not feeling seen or protected in the home, right? Aries deals with identity. So what can you learn from Aries to heal that wound related to Cancer? This is how we should be using the energy of a Chiron retrograde. So with Chiron being in retrograde in Aries, themes of independence, courage, and self-assertion are really going to come to the forefront of our life. So if you have been speaking inauthentically or engaging in ways that are performative in order to survive, that is going to be exposed. And it's going to be exposed in a way that makes you deal with it. It forces you to deal with it. If you have not been speaking honestly, if you've been cowering or shrinking, things are going to force you to look at and ask yourself, why do I play small, thinking that that keeps me safe? Why do I go along to get along, right? And it's going to force you to really confront that and figure out a way to release it, especially if it has become an impediment, right? Independence. What areas of life are you codependent in? Do you have an anxious attachment style? If so, is that causing problems for you? These are the kind of things that an Aries Chiron retrograde will trigger and bring to the surface for a lot of us, right? So it's really important to allow yourself to revisit your past and look at past wounds related to your identity without judgment. All right. A lot of the things that come up and a lot of the ways that we're going to be made to reflect on ourselves are pretty heavy, right? And especially if you are a perfectionist, if you are an overachiever, if you are somebody who has a public persona that is based on strength and people, a lot of people are watching you who equate vulnerability to weakness, this can be a difficult time for you, right? So it's really important to be in a space where you can look at your past pains, look at ways in which you might need to exercise some self-forgiveness, right? I'm gonna need a lot of weed for that. You are funny. I literally thought that earlier today because I don't know if some of you guys know this, but I've taken a break from weed for almost a month. And last night I was looking over everything as I was preparing for a class last night, and I thought to myself, like, I'm grateful that the fast is over because at least the first few weeks, I don't know how I'll be able to get through it if I didn't have some sort of support. But that's funny, Bertal. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Sanidra. Hey, Empress, my newbie. I hope I said that correctly. If I didn't, please correct me. Hey, Shaniqua. It's good to see you again. Yeah, so these themes around Aries related to courage, self-assertion, independence, you will have some triggers that come up that force you to look at the ways in which you have been compromising yourself in order to be in survival mode. Okay, so it's really important that we can engage with what is revealed to us without further shaming ourselves, because the shame is only going to stagnate you. Okay. Again, wounds around identity are going to come up, and you asking yourself whether or not performing has been protecting you is something that's going to come up for a lot of us. Another thing is remembering that Aries is connected to Mars. Mars is the god of war. Aries is the god of war, right? So especially if these wounds happened in a way where you feel like people played you, or you weren't what's the word? You weren't protected. People didn't give you safety. This can bring up a lot of rage for you, right? So another thing that happens under Chiron retrograde in Aries is that suppressed rage will come to the surface, or you're going to be forced to confront your fear of conflict and what it costs you and how that puts you in the line of fire to be abused. Okay? These are all things that are going to come up. So really asking yourself, what are the areas of life where you've chosen to be silent, and what is that silence costing you, right? I'm going to be really annoying and quote Audre Lorde, our silence doesn't protect us. We can think so, we can be taught that in really fucked up, brutal ways, thinking that it brings us safety, but that only lasts temporarily. Most of the time, it doesn't protect us. If anything, it just puts us in the line. It puts us in the intersections, right? What happens to people at the intersections? If you were to be in an intersection of a road right now, what would happen to you? You get ran over, right? So silence doesn't protect you. It puts you in a vulnerable position to be further taken advantage of. And again, Aries, Chiron forces us to look at and acknowledge that, all right? You guys know that I'm being spiritually gang stalked, and there are people that will come to my lives and watch but won't comment. But I've started doing things to be able to know when that happens, and something just went off. So I'm sorry if I seem distracted. But again, another theme that comes up is looking at what hyper independence is costing us. Specifically, understanding how hyper independence is a symptom of a bigger issue around distrust. Okay. A lot of people who are hyper independent are that way because they've had experiences where when they have tried to depend on someone, when they have tried to be vulnerable with someone, that was abused and taken advantage of, right? I fucking hate all these podcasts, alleged relationship coach, BS bullshit people that have popped up over the last 5 years. But one of the, and I don't even remember who it was. I think it was 19 Keys. I remember someone saying, like, you cannot get upset with Black women for being hyper independent when their hyper independence most of the time is a form of protection, because not only do their men often engage in ways that are self-beneficial, and I know not all men, don't do that shit to me, but like, you know, when men get money, they leave us for white bitches. But like, not only do we have experiences of men in systemic ways not supporting us, right? Again, this history of us being at the intersections, this history of us being overworked and overburdened, we don't trust people to take care of us. So no, you cannot expect submissions, femininity, softness, grace, all this stuff from a population of women who have been made to feel and to honestly just see that the world is not going to support them in having that, right? So that is something to consider during this retrograde. Are you a person who identifies as being hyper independent? If so, where did you learn the lesson that hyper independence is the only way that you can be safe? What happened that made you lose trust, either in yourself, in the people who love you, in your environment, to take care of you? How did you lose that trust so early? These are things that Chiron and Aries ask us to think about. And then the last thing is our disconnection from the inner child, right? I will share this story publicly because the person who said this shit, I don't feel a need to protect them anymore because fuck them. But I remember being at a retreat a few years ago, and there was a priestess there who was going off on a tangent. Somebody mentioned inner child healing, and they said, I don't want to do my inner child healing because that was somebody else's responsibility to take care of that girl. And I don't want to raise nobody else's kids. It was one of the mind-boggling things I've ever heard a person say, like a human being say, but it was very reckless for somebody who is a priestess who does work on other people to have that mentality, right? Because the child that is abandoned will burn down the village just to feel its warmth, right? So if you have an abandoned child in you, do you think that you have the capacity to not be reckless? No, people who disconnect from their inner child are constantly causing damage in the lives of other people because they don't know how to control the little girl or the little boy that lives within them. And that little girl and that little boy doesn't understand the reality of consequences. Okay? So this is how we end up with people who are in their 40s and 50s and don't have sustainable relationships, don't have friends of their same gender, don't know how to live on their own without being predatory because they have gotten so used to ignoring and being disconnected from the inner child within them. When we don't do our inner child healing, that child does not go away. And what happens is we have an unruly child who is having impact over our adult responsibilities, experiences, and actions in the world. Okay? So Chiron retrograde in Aries forces us to look at the ways in which, if we are disconnected from our inner child, if you do your inner child work regularly, you're going to be good. I know I'm going to be fine. Because if it's one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to spoil little me, right? But if you are disconnected from your inner child, it's important for you to slow down during this period between July 26th and December 29th and ask yourself how you can reclaim the parts of you that were never seen, never held, or never allowed to just be. One of the primary ways, and it happens a lot with Black and brown girls, right? Parentification of children is one of the easiest ways to teach someone that to disconnect from their inner child. Making someone feel inconvenient as a child teaches them that they don't have, that it's not safe for them to acknowledge the vulnerable parts of themselves. And this retrograde is going to force those of us, and I'm using us loosely because I'm talking about the collective, it's going to force those of us who continue to resist, ignore, and disconnect from our inner child to look at them and to listen to them. And I hope that you guys allow this to happen so that you don't bring disruption into this next phase of your life, okay? So I feel like I don't even need to tell y'all the types of workings you need to do under this influence because it's obvious, right? Inner child healing, do your shadow work, do your journaling. This is not a time to not meditate. You have to be, especially if you have Chiron connections that are related to ancestral or karmic wounds, because again, that's another thing that can happen, right? Especially if you have a past life Chiron situation. Meditation is going to be essential right now because this is not just about you having a conversation with yourself, your Ori, and your inner child. You want to look to your bloodline and look at what karmic lessons are coming up through your Chiron and Aries as well, right? You may have some ancestors that were never allowed to express themselves authentically without fear of death or imprisonment or worse, right? So these are things you need to reflect on. I do want to leave you all with the affirmation. And then after I give you the affirmation, I'm going to go ahead and pull a few cards just to get a general understanding of what we should be looking at further that may not have come up in the notes that I have written down. But an affirmation that I think will be good for a lot of people, especially for you to use after you've journaled, after you've done some automatic writing, after you've done meditation, especially if anything difficult comes up. Telling yourself, I am not broken. I am becoming. My scars are not my shame. They are my map to wholeness. So I'm going to say that again. I am not broken. I am becoming. My scars are not my shame. They are my map to wholeness. Okay? So y'all can keep that one and go back to it whenever you feel comfortable. Before I get into the reading, I do want to let you guys know that until August 30th, I'm going to be offering Ancestral Life Path readings at a discounted rate of $75. So for those of you who may feel karmic issues coming up around your Chiron, or even your Neptune, because we have 5 planets in retrograde. That's crazy. Now probably would be a good time to book an Ancestral Life Path reading if you've never had one or have not had one in a while. But I do offer shadow work consultations. I have the Golden Shadows reading if you want to get, especially if you have any 2nd or 10th house placements, or your Chiron is in the 2nd or 10th house and you want support around that, feel free to book a reading. You can use the code Chiron to get 20% off if you want to book any services with me. And that code will be good for the next 7 days. But let's go ahead and just I'm going to ask 3 questions. The first is, I'm going to go with this deck. It feels right. What do we need to know that hasn't already been revealed? Ancestors, angels, and masters, spirits, walk with me, elevated ancestors. What do we as a collective need to know about the Chiron retrograde? What additional wisdom do we need that is beyond the conventional wisdom around this particular retrograde? If you can give us any insights into the nature of the lessons, challenges we will encounter or experience between July 26th and December 29th, any wisdom is greatly appreciated. Mm-hmm. See, I know God don't make no mistakes, because this is a very similar message. This message has come up so many times in the last few weeks in the weekly wisdom readings. And I know it's true because synchronicity is real. Um, some of us have taken on so much, we don't know how to let things go. Some of us are completely stretched thin, on the verge of burnout, or honestly, Ten of Wands is not about being on the verge. Some of us are actively in burnout, but we're so disconnected, we don't know what to do with it, right? And a lot of the things that we are holding on to that are contributing to the burnout are things that have gone beyond their expiration date. And we've been being called to move forward, to leave some things behind, to take some things off of our plate, to go down a new path so that we don't continue to move in the same ways in which we have. But there's been a lot of resistance towards this. Some of you guys are so married to these extra things, this baggage that you keep on your back, that is stalling you. You can't move forward, even though you know you need to, right? One of my favorites. I love the Chariot. Chariot is coming up because the Chariot is taking big risks to go after their goals and what they want, with the trust that they have everything that they need to protect themselves, right? That Cancer energy, that hard shell of reserve. So even when life pulls them in opposite directions, they're going to keep going. They're going to figure it out, right? I think that in order for us to move beyond this burnout that's looming over a lot of us, we have to get so deeply rooted in the belief that we are worthy and deserving of the things that we want to go after, that we don't even have time to stop and stall and overthink, right? We're just going, we're in action. At the same time, this requires a lot of self-reflection. And a huge part of the reason why some of you guys have so many things on your shoulders and why you are more comfortable with burnout than you are moving forward and engaging in exploration is because, let's be real, a lot of y'all don't want to look at yourself. You don't want to look at yourselves. You're afraid of what you're going to have to see. But the only way that you can move forward is by engaging in this hermitage where you stop, you pause, and you reflect over who you are and who you want to be, right? I want to reiterate. Some of you guys are not able to see yourselves because you distract yourselves with other people's expectations of you, with other people's problems, with other people's BS. And it's a way for you to not look at yourself and think about who you want to be and how your actions are not in alignment with who you want to be. Some of you guys want to be leaders. Some of you guys want to be business owners. Some of you guys want to be educators. But you're never going to get there, not because you're not worthy, not because you're not capable, not because you're not deserving, but because you are too comfortable with taking on other people's stuff to distract yourself. Ten of Wands can represent, it's a call to let go of all the extra bullshit so that you don't engage in self-sabotage. Okay? Now, even though this retrograde is going to be painful, if we can process these insights, it gives us wisdom that puts battery in our back so that we can start making progress towards our goals. We can start moving forward and building the life that we want for ourselves, building the empire we desire to have, right? Here's the thing. We have these moments of insight. We get really, really excited. And then the first thing we want to do is run and tell that. We want to run and tell people. The reflections you come across under this Chiron retrograde, the breakthroughs you experience, those are your business. Okay? So celebrate your wins. Absolutely. Because that's part of inner child healing too. Celebrating the small wins. Think about when you're little. I don't know how many of you have raised children, right? When kids are little, you celebrate everything. It's like, oh, you pee pee in the potty, oh my God. And then they get fruit snacks, right? I don't understand why we stopped doing that shit when we we shouldn't celebrate pissing in the potty. But small wins do deserve to be celebrated. Celebrate yourself, but be careful about who you tell your business. Because, and here's the thing, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that you should be shamed of any breakthroughs you have during this time, but the breakthroughs are going to be new. And if you go and tell that to the wrong person, especially people that you know are gossipy, all it's going to do is become evidence and a reason to justify your need and your desire to shut down. Right? This is a Chiron that's about self-assertion. This is a Chiron that's about personal identity. So validate you. Don't search for validation in other people. That's not what we should be learning to do under this retrograde. We should be using this retrograde to be so confident and so validated within ourselves that we don't need people to pat us on the back with every step. Okay? And if you need that, again, that's an inner child issue. What's going on with little you that never felt fully fed and held, where now adult you feels like you're not valuable or worthy unless strangers are clapping for you, to the point where you will literally tell your business to people who will toast to your downfall. Be careful, okay? The next question I'm going to ask is, what do we need to know about our most intimate relationships under this Chiron? And then I'll do one more spread after that, and then we'll go ahead and part for the night, okay? Ancestors, angels, and masters, spirits, walk with me, nominated ancestors. What will the Chiron retrograde in Aries reveal to us as a collective about our most intimate relationships? Please give us nature of the types of light that will be shown on our shadows and hidden wounds during this time. Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. Hey, Nicole, did I already say hi to you, Nicole? Yeah, and I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, and I apologize for that. But this retrograde is really going to teach a lot of us that in our most intimate relationships, we, oh, I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna, and forgive me. I have to be accountable to spirit. Okay. Some of us because we have not worked through our hyper independence. Some of us because we spend so much energy towards hyper performativity out in the rest of the world. We are actively disconnected from the ways in which our partners are not getting the best of us. There's a particular way that we can, and I don't want to use the word, but spirit's putting on me. We can be low key abusive to our intimate partners and our intimate relationships. There's a way in which we give more and the best of ourselves to the outside world, and we can deny and neglect the people that are closest to us. And this retrograde is really going to shine a light on that, because if we don't deal with that and change it, we can fuck around and lose some of the people that are closest to us. Okay? So again, Nine of Pentacles. It's dope being Nine of Pentacles. Being the person that folks look at as having it all together, having all the answers, having everything they need. That is a beautiful thing if it's authentic. If it's authentic. But for a lot of us, who are watching this, whether live or in a replay, it's unfortunately not authentic. It's very performative. It's very thought out. It's very planned. It's a very strategic way of showing up in the world. And it's a way of showing up in the world that's very much invested in impressing the world, right? You know that if you can present to a certain way to the rest of the world, it opens up opportunity for you, right? And that may be helpful for you in terms of career, in terms of your public persona, but there's a way in which your actions in private don't match your public persona, right? There's a lack of spiritual discipline and routine that happens in your home front and in your personal everyday actions that is going to be exposed, right? It's going to be exposed. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, if we are disciplined and if we're willing to do the work, those of us who get these insights about how our passions or how we take up public space that are out of alignment with how we present to other people, right? When we get this information, those of us who are aligned, we will do what we need to do to work through it. But for some of us who resist this message, it will result in a tower moment. You will lose your intimate relationships, okay? So the warning here is about, okay, you're doing a lot of performing to appease the rest of the world. But when it comes to your intimate relationships, you are out of integrity with your word. You are out of alignment with your routines and your traditions and the promises that you've made to your intimate partners. So when this gets highlighted, take that wisdom and that information, move differently, and do something with it. If you choose to be pig-headed and you don't want to engage in self-forgiveness or self-evaluation and heal, it will cost you intimate relationships. So be careful, okay? It's not uncommon for people to end relationships in a Chiron retrograde. And they're typically relationships that are because of a refusal to do the work that's being brought into the light. So again, if you are partnered, if you have close relationship with your family, if you have really close friendships, pay attention. When people tell you, oh, you give more in this environment than you give to me, instead of because another thing about Hierophant is it can be tyrannical, right? That tyrannical, what's the word I'm looking for? False guru, egotistical energy can really come up when people point out to the Hierophant that they're not doing something correctly. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be aligned enough to be able to make change and to take the new information and to put it into action? Or are you going to be so pig-headed that you end up losing somebody that means the world to you? Because you're so busy out here trying to impress the world, you can lose the world in your most intimate relationships if you're not careful, okay? I'm going to do one more spread. I talked a lot about what we're going to go through, but let's talk about the star card moment. Let's talk about who we get to be and what we get to experience after Chiron retrograde is over if we do the work, okay? Elevated ancestors for wisdom. Does the collective need at this time about who we get to be after December 29th, after the Chiron retrograde goes direct. Please give us insight into how this retrograde will transform and change us if we do our work, if we stand in integrity with our healing journey. Ooh, a lot is falling out. Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. I'm going to let these first three cards just be the top row because I don't want us to be here all night. And for those of you who are still here with me, I do want to say thank you. And if you enjoyed this segment, put a blue heart in the comments. Put a blue heart in the comments if you enjoyed the segment. Put a blue heart in the comments if you want to see me do more astrological breakdowns and readings like this. I'm trying to bring some new energy to the page. And I know that folks really appreciate the weekly wisdom readings, but I really want to be more than the free reading girl. I really want to, you know what I mean? I really want there to be different engagement in this channel. So if you guys enjoy this, let me know. And then I'll try to be more on top of the astrological transits and give you guys this wisdom moving forward. Okay? If we do our work, I love this for I'm not going to cry. Y'all know I'm sensitive. If we do this work, it can bring us tremendous blessings when it comes to our confidence. Not only will it open up opportunities for us to take on roles of leadership that we may have been feeling called, hey, Francie, that we may have been feeling called towards for quite some time, but have not known how to go about. It will also highlight ways in which we engage in self-sabotage. And if we can release those habits during the retrograde, we end the retrograde in really authentic love relationships. So those who may have been experiencing difficulty in their marriage, this becomes opportunity to have healing there. For those who may have felt like they have not had the best experiences of dating, things get highlighted and exposed that help you show up more authentically, so that way you can have more genuine experiences of your love life, right? Very first card is the Fool card. To whom take big risks, those who take risks, big risks, get big rewards, right? And it is difficult to be vulnerable and to engage in things that are scary, not knowing what the outcome is going to be. But those of us who can go down this fool's journey and just be open to what Spirit has to teach us about us will be deeply blessed with the transformation and the wisdom that they receive, right? The more vulnerable and open you are, the more that charity will come into your life, the more that the universe will bless you. A huge amount of what, and I know that this is not related to Aries specifically, but energetically what I'm getting from the collective who's watching this either live or in a replay, it's a lot of people that struggle with receiving. A lot of people struggling with receiving, okay? And for those of you who struggle with receiving, this retrograde is going to really help you work on that issue of distrust. And once you have your breakthrough with distrust, it's going to feel like people are literally just raining gifts on you, pouring gifts over you, right? But that, again, it's a result of you being vulnerable and open that changes your relationship with receptivity. This retrograde is going to highlight the areas of life where you engage in self-sabotage, but also highlight the patterns around who you choose to let into your life. And there are some of us who keep letting the same types of characters get close to us, ignoring the fact that these particular characters want to steal our joy, want to steal our light. There's some weirdo destiny swapping narcissistic bitches, right? And the reason why, even though other people all around us may be able to see the red flags in these people and we don't, it has a lot to do with something in our inner child, our younger self, was normalized. So we don't know how to challenge it. But because the retrograde reveals that to us, again, if we do the work, we'll be able to learn how to spot the thieves who want to get close to us. After the retrograde, there's going to be so much breakthrough that it's really going to put the battery in a lot of people's back. And it's really going to embolden them to move forward with passion and to go after the things that they want. I think a lot of those who struggle with overthinking after this Chiron retrograde is over, again, if they do their work, will become people who are in the act of being and who are in the act of initiation instead of being prone to overthink, stalling, and stagnation. Big dick energy. I love the King of Wands, right? I think the worthiness and the confidence and the belief in self that people will have once they take the time to forgive the younger versions of themselves and to really reconnect with their deep passions is going to be immense. And it's going to gift a lot of people. Again, this is under Six of Pentacles, gifts being given. One of those main gifts is an opportunity to stand in leadership in ways that some of us may have dreamed of, but have not had the confidence to go after. And then we end with the Lover's card, again, aligned love, being in love with people who see you instead of constantly being in friendship or relationship with people who only want to take from you, right? Calling in reciprocal relationships once we work on our relationship with trust. We don't talk about the ways in which if you have severe distrust, you will attach to people who justify your desire to not fucking trust folks, right? And I think that the people who operate that way are going to have significant breakthrough, again, if they do their work while Chiron is in retrograde. Nicole wants to know, how do they figure out what they need to do? So you can study your chart more deeply. That's one thing that people can do on their own for free. I have Chiron retrograde readings that are going to be going up on my Patreon tomorrow morning. So depending on whether or not your sun, moon, rising, or Chiron is in whatever sign, there will be readings available on my Patreon tomorrow morning for people to get deeper insights about what's needed under this retrograde. If there are people that just want to get a reading, this will be a great time to get a natal chart reading if you never had one done, okay? So if you want to get a natal chart reading from a professional where it's broken down and people highlight your Chiron, talk about your Chiron in relationship to other houses and placements in your natal chart, book a reading. I offer natal chart readings. I offer shadow works consultations. There's a bunch of ways that you can get support with me to help you through this period of time. You just have to pick a service and book it, and I'm more than happy. But if you don't want to get a reading, again, there will be videos, there are classes, there are resources all on my Patreon if you subscribe. And the link to my Patreon is below, as well as the link to my website. Again, for the next, I believe the code Chiron expires July 31st, I believe. So if you want to book a reading, you can get 20% off by using the code Chiron and going to my website. Josie said, I appreciate all the knowledge you give to the community. Thank you, Josie. I try. And you know what's crazy? I get free classes. I literally come on every single week and I get free readings. I have a whole Facebook group where we repost information and books and class. I give a lot of free resources to the community, but I get accused of not giving enough away. So I've learned to ignore that over time. I say that to say, Josie, thank you for acknowledging what I pour into you guys. I appreciate it. It is deeply, deeply appreciated, because I can't tell you how many people don't care and they will come and take and take and take from me every week and then have the audacity to say I'm not giving enough. So I appreciate that tremendously, Josie. All right, we are at the end of the reading. Love offerings, if you want to send them the information scrolling below, it's not a necessity. Again, if you want to book a service, a shadow work consultation, a natal chart reading, an astral life path reading, anything, feel free to go to soleilconjureshop.com and do so. Use the code Chiron to get 20% off. If for whatever reason you have issues with my website, you can text me at 404-654-3246. There's also going to be some information, classes, and readings posted on my Patreon. The link to that is below if you want to join. Y'all have a good weekend. I will be back here Sunday night, as I always am, for the weekly wisdom reading. And until then, I want you all to take care and be gentle with yourselves, okay? Good night and goodbye.